Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast. I am your co-host, Nancy Sheed, and I am excited. I'm going to admit I was a little nervous, but also excited to be talking over these next few episodes about all things IT, keeping you safe, keeping you smart, and keeping you productive. And we're going to be talking with Linda Kuppersmith. She is the President and Chief Technology Advisor of CMIT Solutions. And you're going to hear how really smart, really insightful, and actually really hopeful she is about the role technology can play in our lives and our businesses. Linda is also on the HAYVN Board of Advisors. I've known her for several years, and she has been a go-to person for many of us in the HAYVN community in terms of all things IT. So listen in, let's learn from Linda, and enjoy these next few episodes. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast with Linda Kuppersmith, who is talking with us this month on all things IT. And we're talking about being safe, being smart, being productive. And today's topic is do's and don'ts when buying the best computer for your business. So, Linda, welcome. And we talked about, there are a couple different paths to this journey, but let's just start to begin with and make an assumption that solopreneur moving into their first business, right? What does that journey look like in terms of considerations when they've kind of been like, okay, I got to get a work computer? What does that look like to you, and what advice do you have for people?
So you're saying that somebody, started up their business, they grabbed whatever computer they had from a personal basis, whatever it is, and they've now clearly understood that, okay, I now need a real workhorse.
Exactly.
And so now's the time to be able to, really think and make the right investment, because you're going to be working with that computer typically on a daily basis. It should last a couple of years.
Oh, come on, more than a couple.
Oh, I know. Some people say, why? Well, hold it. No. The reality of our world is the computer's not going to wear out. The technology that's inside of it is going to become dated. So even though the darn thing works, it's going to be left behind in the playground as everybody else grows up.
Wow. Okay. Didn't see that one coming. All right. I'm not going to tell you how old my computer is. Black web. Okay.
Well, and some of them, and that's a really, that's a good point. And I have an Apple MacBook that is from 2014. That's an 8-year-old computer.
Wow.
Now, in the beginning, it could do a lot of stuff.
Right.
Now, it's a browser. That's all it can do. I can no longer run Outlook on it. I can't run a lot of other things. I've stripped it down, but it still is a nice little browser.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to make the assumption then, I'm over the 2 years, but we're going to make the assumption you want this. We're talking about the kind of ideal, all singing, all dancing to sort of get you kickstarted in, kind of launching your business, or you're ready to make that commitment. What are the kind of key things people want to worry about or think about?
The first thing you want to be able to think about is where you're going to buy the computer. And since COVID, there's been some pretty interesting things that have happened. I think everybody's heard about supply chain problems. There is a major chip problem, not only because of supply chain, because of COVID, but because more and more products need a silicon chip in order to be able to process. We've got the Internet of Things, everything has a chip. So as manufacturers there's a huge amount of players in all of this. What we sadly found during COVID is they were scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of whatever was laying around and throwing it into a machine. So we were sometimes looking at machines where people purchased what they felt was a really good deal, But we found out that the processor was like 4 generations behind.
Okay, got it.
So it's a new processor, but it was sitting in a box for a long time because it had already become dated. But that's the kind of stuff that comes out on the market. So when, and a lot of people have heard about, the famous Walmart TVs for Black Friday. That TV that you're getting on there is not the same quality as what you would get from the manufacturer at any other time. That machine was specifically, that TV or that machine was built specifically for that price point.
Okay.
Cheap, cheap, cheap. So you very much, I strongly recommend that anybody that's making an investment of a computer, which realistically right now you're talking about at least $800, and often, we're looking at, $1,200, $1,500, depending on what you're looking for, buy from a manufacturer or make sure that machine is coming from an actual manufacturer, which means you're buying directly from Dell, buy directly from HP, Lenovo, buy directly from Apple. Apple's a little bit tighter, about
Right.
all of this. But, a lot of people also, especially on the Apple side, will go after a refurb Apple. But you need to really understand who's the refurb person. So, very much remember that there is a difference between consumer wear and consumer electronics and business grade. And, 15, 16 years of doing this now, I can tell you that consumer grade equipment is flimsier. It's going to be dropped. It's going to get hot. It's going to do lots of other things. You're going to get maybe 2.5, 3 years out of it at best.
Okay.
Versus a business class machine is going to last you somewhere between 3 and 5 years, depending on how technology kind of moves and shakes out.
Look at that. I got a
and
couple
how
extra
much
years.
you put in
I
there.
got a couple extra years out of you. I knew I could do it. So that's huge. Buying for the manufacturer, which I'm sure we all think, oh, it's going to be more expensive. But you're pointing out the value in making that decision. The two next things that come to my mind are laptop versus desktop, as well as what are you putting on that computer? And those are, I think, two separate questions, but not necessarily the same, right? Like, are you literally just doing word processing and cloud work the whole time? Or are you highly involved in graphics editing and, I don't know, computations and running, things like that? That's where my brain goes. But how do you
Yep.
help people tease out kind of those directions once we know where they're going to order from, or maybe before they figure that out?
Yeah, no. So absolutely the next step is to be able to say, what am I going to run on it? What do I have to run on it? And if you're a brand new business, then you need to, do some research, which is good anyway, to be able to say you may not need to have a subscription to the Adobe Creative Suite now, but you're going to need that in 6 to 9 months. Or, talk with your bookkeeper about whether or not you should be running QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. Are you going to be running heavier Excel spreadsheets? And here, people say, oh, I just need to work through a browser because all of my stuff is cloud-based. Well, here's the other little ugly secret. What has been happening with a lot of these cloud programs is that they are pushing code through the browser that ends up on your hard drive. So what we all kind of thought was a thin client, as it's called, application runs just through the browser. In the background, there's a whole lot more happening. The browser's just the face, but they are pushing a lot of code onto your machine. And Google, like right now, is a real memory hog. You open up multiple, tabs in Chrome, and you're going to start eating through your memory.
I have no idea who those people are
right now,
that have
I
15 tabs open. Who are those people?
I've had to switch over to Edge because Chrome, I couldn't run with it anymore. Now, they'll probably fix that in 60 to 90 days because everybody's pushing out code. It's sloppy, it's inefficient, then they get on the efficiency thing, but there's a lot of that going on. So don't think just because everything is browser-based that you can just have just a browser machine like my 2014, MacBook Air. There are things it can't do for the browser. So pay attention to what software is going to be on there. That plays into then how much memory, and memory is right now minimum of 8. I don't care who you're talking about, Windows, Apple, surfing, not surfing. Could be more if you're doing higher computation stuff.
Okay, and
processors.
I'm going to interrupt you. You said 8. Let's just be very specific. 8
8
gigabytes
gigabytes
of, explain exactly what
of
kind of memory, but because I know we start getting into RAM and hard drive and everything else. So I want to spell out the basics for people who really, this is ABCs, 8 gigabytes of,
8 gigabytes of RAM,
okay.
RAM, which stands for read access memory, which is kind of the brain,
Yep.
where your hard drive is kind of like the big pad of paper where you can record things and they're written down. So speed is all about things that are running in RAM, where it's in your head. It's slower if you have to be able to look something up in a book or look something up on your hard drive.
Okay.
So hard drive space is now going to be about how much you have to keep locally versus how much you're keeping up on the cloud. So if you're doing a lot of photos, a lot of videos, you're going to be looking at least at a half a terabyte TB, if not a full, and some photographers are even running 3 to 5 terabytes and different kinds of solutions there.
I have
And that's when you're
three
kind of starting to
terabytes
play.
for photos, but it's on a hard drive.
There you go.
It's a separate,
There you
it's a
go.
removable hard drive, but holy moly, it takes up a lot of space.
That's right. That's right. They really, really do. And then the other thing is processor, which is again kind of like the brain. It's speed of thought. It's not able to be upgraded over time. And so right now, I'm a fan of Intel processors versus, AMD's. But, that can be kind of a religious conversation amongst us hardware geeks. But right now, an i7, which is a 7th generation, chip is what is prevalent on the marketplace right now. And that's a chip that's going to run well for you for the next 3 to 5 years, if not longer.
I feel like we're having a car conversation. This is kind of fun.
It is. Well, yes.
Like,
yes.
tell me about the horsepower.
horsepower.
Exactly. Tell me about
Yes,
the horsepower.
yes.
Too late.
Yes.
2 women geeking out over our computer speed. Now, the other kind of question, laptop versus desktop.
Okay. The same hardware, memory, processor, hard drive, if you put it in a laptop, what we call form factor, has to go through a lot more engineering, and those are smaller pieces parts. So you're going to be paying 20% premium for the same exact stuff if it's in a smaller form factor. And that investment is worth it if you need to carry the thing around.
Yeah, right. I mean, I do, so I can work anywhere.
That's
so
right.
It's worth it to me.
Or, you get to a point where you just have more than one machine.
Yeah.
So I have a desktop, which is where I do the vast majority of my work. But I also have a laptop that I carry around that I use when I'm outside of the office. So the combination of the two very often is what I see a lot of people being able to use as well.
Okay. And this is a nice segue. So, that's incredibly helpful in terms of making the decision versus everybody assuming they need a laptop, or people who go work in the office, they have to have a desktop. This is a good segue into, I kind of feel like we're getting into accessories now, but not really, monitors and docking stations, right? Like, so if we are the laptop, and even if we're not a laptop, I'm a huge fan of the more than one monitor. So
Right.
how does that work from your world when you're seeing either efficiency or better work habits? I don't know. Do you have kind of guiding advice on those?
If you're spending 6+ hours a day on your computer, you're going to benefit by having a second monitor. If you've got multiple windows up, being able to keep your communication windows, your email, and that type of thing, and then another monitor for what it is that you're supposed to be focusing on versus what you have to keep track of.
Mm.
So a lot of times there's that dual monitor. Also, tasks that simply require you to be able to have something side by side.
Mm.
Bookkeepers are very famous for this. People doing editing. You have the original over here. You've got your, the product that you're working on the second screen. So that dual monitor, is very important. So when you're choosing a computer, whether it's that laptop or desktop, knowing whether it is capable of running a second monitor. In order to do that, it needs a different kind of a graphics card.
Yeah.
And not all computers are capable of that. Some you can just plug the monitors in directly into the laptop or desktop. In other cases, you need a docking station to be able to help deal with the graphics and the splitting on that.
And I'm going to make a plug for the dual monitors just for Zoom, just to be able to, if you don't have if you're working off of a laptop and you have to use that one screen for your Zoom conversations and to be looking at a document or something together, for that reason alone, and even before COVID, it just, to me, the value of being able to have, your Zoom conversations in one and being able to still kind of work or look or analyze or see stuff in a second one is huge. That's my plug for a second computer.
Yeah. And I think one of the also inherent problems with a laptop, if you're using it all day long, any chiropractor will tell you, is you're going to end up with neck pain because you inherently will end up hunched over, your shoulders in, which will cause a migraine often, or a headache that's spiking from the spine and going up across the head. Chiropractors and doctors actually call it a question mark. And that's really what's happening, because that pain is radiating from your back. So trying to keep good posture when you're on a laptop is a lot of times more difficult. So if you are using a laptop, think about your ergonomics and, positioning that laptop perhaps on top of something so that you're at eye level with the monitor.
Yeah. And or we're getting into details now, but either an extra keyboard or putting your camera at a different height. But yes,
right.
We could have a whole conversation about the lessons we've learned hunched over our computers in awkward places. Maybe I'll do a podcast about that, if everybody's showing us their best ways to configure their computers and making Zoom look good. Anyway, we digress. Linda, this has been incredibly helpful, and I think also really relevant right now in terms of just as we're, new year, coming out of COVID, thinking about what we need for our businesses. This might have been on the, on our to-do list or our goals for this year. So I really appreciate you helping us think through this process. We've talked mostly under the assumption of a solopreneur, but for the larger, more enterprise business owners or, kind of founders, what are things that they need to consider if they're kind of thinking of a big tech upgrade or a computer upgrade at more of an enterprise level? And how does an IT advisor help?
Well, not even an enterprise level, but I'd say anytime your business is now going into that second computer and third computer where you're buying a computer for somebody else's use, there's a benefit in being able to now pull in an IT advisor, because it doesn't have to be the same computer. You now really want to be able to match the computer with the job. And we also start to be able to get into what's the age of this computer. And if you're going to buy a new computer, oftentimes what we do is we buy the new computer for the owner. The owner's existing computer goes to the employee because they just simply don't need as much computing. So it's about how do we effectively use each purchase and being able to really optimize it for the different positions that are there.
And creating a cohesive environment as well, because I know you and I have talked about, if you are operating, at that level of capacity and things are not in the cloud, there's also a whole nother sensitivity to getting things synced up and connected and running. And if the hardware is not appropriate, it can make your life a living.
Correct.
Not fun.
Yep. Exactly.
Fantastic. Linda, thank you again. This is really helpful. I think a great sort of how-to guide on buying that best computer for the next step in your business. Please check out the other podcasts where Linda and I are talking all things IT, keeping you, I think I've said keeping you safe, smart, and productive. So thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
Linda, as always, I feel smarter, more secure, and more productive on all things IT. How can others who want to connect with you, work with you, learn more, connect with you?
Easy. So go to our website, CMITstanford.com, STAM like Mary, FORD. Look for Linda's Tech Tips on the top right-hand corner. You'll find a whole bunch of information there, and can also sign up for our Tuesday Quick Tips, which will keep you very quickly up to date on all things in small business technology. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and then we also run a YouTube channel, which has some original content, but some great playlists of getting you up to speed on different technologies and just different YouTube videos we found that are just very, very informative for small business owners looking to be able to become more educated. You can also...
Fantastic.
I'm going to give you one more. It's Linda at CMITstanford.com. And our phone number is 203-595-9091.
Fantastic. And we'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you for being here for this HAYVN Hubcast. And listeners, please check out the other podcasts where Linda is sharing her expertise.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.